Hola, bom dia. Carl Monson here with the Good Morning Portugal live stream, YouTube channel and podcast. Great to be here with you this Thursday morning, the 8th of October, 2020. Shall we begin by having a look at the weather? It was just a very cloudy day looking out of my window this morning. Foggy, I should say, not cloudy, but, fog is low cloud, is it not? And the eerie sound of shooting out there this morning as well. Sent the dog out for a little wander of the valley, then heard two gunshots and thought the worst. But Jimmy Choo is fine, everybody. And I suspect it's just somebody bagging some rabbits out there, perhaps. Mere speculation. I'm not entirely sure, but always a slightly chilling sound, but a very Portuguese country sound, of course, shooting in the countryside here. So, what are the sounds of your countryside where you are in Portugal if you are in a rural location? We saw, of course, the opening screen there from Gary in Alvaiazara, pretty rural over that way, and a lovely sunset from the summer. I'm just pulling back these summer pictures as we go deeper into autumn, holding on to the warmer days as we go into the Portuguese autumn now. So talking of autumn, let's have a look at the weather, shall we? We have... nobody requested weather in their locality, so I'll stick to the main points this morning, the 4 points of Portugal as I normally do: Lisbon, Porto, Coimbra and Faro. Let's start with Faro first today for a change. 20 degrees and mostly cloudy. Cloudy a few days ahead actually in Faro. 27 degrees the high to look forward to today. Coimbra, 14 degrees and overcast currently. Yeah, that pretty much matches what's going on here in Anadia. 25 to look forward to today. A couple of cloudy days, but a nice looking weekend in this part of the country where I am. 27 on Saturday, 25 on Sunday, and a nice week actually thereafter by the look of it, and if the forecasters are correct. Similarly in Porto, from Friday onwards, sun all the way currently. A cloudy day today, high of 21 and currently overcast at 14. And in Lisbon, 16 degrees, partly cloudy, 26 degrees the high today. 3 cloudy days forecast, and then it brightening up in Lisbon, in the capital, on Sunday for a little spread of sunny days ahead for next week. There's your weather. And as I said, always happy to do the weather in your part of the country. If you feel a little bit left out of things, do let me know. Okay, a few things for you today to get your head around and your tongue around as well. Otorino Laranjalista was the challenge laid down for me. I think I did pretty well there. I mean, you know me, I like to have a run up and just go for it. Otorino Laranjalista. Give it a go at home, if you will. This was the challenge from our wonderful correspondent, Portuguese fella. I think from my early conversations with him, Portuguese living in the Far East, and an occasional commenter on our YouTube videos. I'll read his full comment out in just a moment. And yes, shock horror. Port sales in Portugal are down 40%. So we need to come to the aid of the port industry, everybody, here in Portugal. And I'm going to give you build a 10-minute guide to port in case you don't know much about port, would like to know a little bit more. And then we'll see what we can do to help the port industry here in Portugal. Got to do our bit. And if you're not a drinker or a boozer, you might like to stay tuned for that anyway, because it makes a rather nice present and gift as a classic gift from Portugal. So a little guide for you if you want to buy somebody else some port. And also, I'm asking a couple of questions that you might want to answer in the comments this morning. What are you reading at the moment? I've got a little news story about how young people in Portugal don't read as much as they used to. What are you reading at the moment? Do you read more or less than you used to? How do you read? Do you read those old-fashioned book things? Or do you use a tablet, a Kindle? Do you read from your laptop? I'm actually wondering, because it made me question my own reading habits and comparing myself when I was a child. And I'm not a great reader, actually, to be fair. But, I was thinking my kids, myself, my own childhood, what will kids read electronically in the future? So keen to know, particularly from an expat point of view. My stereotypical view of the expat is somebody who reads books, has time on their hands possibly, and reads old-fashioned books, actual books in their hand, people who like the smell of a book. So what are you reading? Do you read very often? And yes, we have an answer already. I'm guessing, unless this is a comment on being an expat and having an enchanted life, but I'm guessing Rafa is reading The Enchanted Life. Let's go to a few comments now. Oh, the other question I was going to ask was, what was the last thing you bought from a Chinese shop? I, I bought a sound bar to go with my TV and a DVD player, because the kids have still got some old DVDs. Talking of books, they prefer a DVD. It's a lot easier, isn't it? But I opened up the DVD player. It's got a SCART connection on the back, for those of you with some technical knowledge. I mean, didn't SCARTs finish in the 1980s? So I'm in the Chinese shop yesterday trying to buy a configuration of leads, spending not a lot of money, but more than I wanted to, trying to piece together a SCART that went to a phono connector that went to this, that, and the other, and it still doesn't work. So what was the last thing you bought from a Chinese shop was another thing that I thought you might like to answer, because they have some random stuff in there. Books always, and it is The Enchanted Life, that Rafa is reading, who also loves port. So you'll stick around for that, I suspect, then, Rafa. Good to have you with us this morning. Let's go and see what everybody's saying this morning before we get into that port article. Oh, and the comment from Gordianus, very hot and sunny in Santa Rita. Bon dia from Dave and Debbie Wino. Good morning to you two guys. How you doing? Is that picture? Is that your own? Is that a quad bike that you sat on in your profile pic there? Is that your very own one, or one you borrowed? Looks like fun. Natalie, Harknet, and Vitor. Morning. Don't talk to me about weather. Oh dear. Pouring down here in Milton Keynes. Vitor doesn't want to go to work. And I hate to do it to you, Vitor. I hate to talk about the Portuguese weather. We haven't had this yesterday with Nunu saying, like in Northampton, it's -6 or something. It wasn't really that cold, but it must have felt like it to a Portuguese person. And here we are sat in Portugal talking about the weather here. So, Vitor, please accept my apologies. Scoop. And I can understand why you don't want to go to work this morning. Paul Williams, bon dia, from a very wet and windy Southampton. 6 days to go. We are counting down with Paul. This is fantastic. Join in, if you will, with Paul Williams' countdown until he is here in Portugal. 6 days to go, Paul. Let's keep this countdown going. Love it. Sounds of the countryside. I think the sound of jet washing will be heavy in the air, Carl. So I told you, didn't I? Gary wouldn't be able to do a quick 20, 30 minutes of jet washing. When a man has either his strimmer or his jet washer in his hand, he has to keep going until every weed has been laid waste, or every slab has been jet washed to within an inch of its life. Yes, jet washing, chainsaws, and gunshots. So far, the sounds of the countryside. Church bells, of course. Bon dia. De linda ensolarada Massas Donna Maria. Okay, so what are we looking at there? A lovely, I don't know what an ensolarada. Can you help us with that, Ty? Please, can we have a translation? But I think generally speaking, you're wishing us a good day from your part of Portugal in Massas de Dona Maria. And let's see what else people. Oh, Valerie, hello, Valerie. We didn't upset you too much yesterday by not being very sympathetic about cyclists. Very interesting, your comments yesterday. I hope you're fully recovered from that incident now. Reading a book. Wow, you know how to live, Valerie. Reading a book on how to improve your SEO. Last thing I bought from a Chinese shop were sunglasses, and yes, I can. Remember SCART leads, or I can't remember. What can you do? Remind me there, please, if you will. But search engine optimization is the book that Valerie's reading. Actually, probably quite a few of us want to talk to you about that, Valerie, once you've totally genned up on that. Ty's book at the moment is Dog is Love by Dr. Clive Wynne. Is that like a play on words of God is Love, Dog is Love by Dr. Clive Wynne? Thank you for sharing that with me. Brown rice noodles. I think I've asked too many questions this morning, because that could be the last thing that you bought from a Chinese shop, or it could be the name of a book. But I think it is the last thing you bought from a Chinese shop. I'm loving it. Not that you're counting down, Paul, though. We're getting behind you, Paul, here. 6 days and counting. Garvo Gary, who is leading the wine tasting tonight, incidentally. Let me just bring that up on the screen. This is Gary's selection tonight. I thought I'd put it up on my screen already. Forgive me. Let me see. Okay, so that should share. I don't know why it's not. Maybe I haven't got the SCART lead plugged in correctly. But no, it won't let me share. All right, I'll read it from the screen for you. We are looking at a Valentina Reserva. The name of the wine is the Viña de Valentina. I guess that's the producer, and it is a Setúbal red. Make sure you get the Reserva. And Excuse me, Gary has put a lot of effort into this, as he does when he leads a tasting with us. I'm going to have a sip of tea, everybody, in just a moment. Yeah, join us tonight from 9 p.m. On this very page when Gary will be leading the tasting of that wine. And it's a sexy little number, I think, by his own admission. So that's Garvo leading the tasting tonight. Viña de Valentina, the Reserva Red from Setúbal or Setúbal, as I think some people call it. I'm still not sure on that. I miss secondhand shops a lot, and skips. Good ones, says Will. A skip diver, self-confessed skip diver there. Probably bringing together the idea of finding a book, an old book in a skip, perhaps. So yeah, there was Amigos. I used to go to Amigos. A few of you here, I think, used to go to Amigos. They had a nice little book area, didn't they? Where you could just take a book, swap a book, buy a book. And that's a lovely thing to do with books, isn't it? Is once you've finished, let someone else have the pleasure and the benefit. Ty Johnson loved the Chinese shops. Last autumn was a laundry basket. Not very exciting, and probably only cost you a couple of euros if I'm correct there as well, Ty. Here we go. Da Costa, Diogo da Costa. Great to hear from you, sir. We love your comments on our YouTube channel. Hi, good morning from England. Here is raining. And no new news, mate. Ha ha ha. Okay, well, you are our man. This is a strange thing, isn't it? Here I am, an Englishman in Portugal, and there you are, a Portuguese man in England, keeping us abreast of the news there. Hope all is going well. But great to hear from you, Diogo. Paul Williams, William Dalrymple's The Anarchy is the history of the East India Company. What an erudite bunch you all are. Amazing. And are you enjoying it, Paul? Or is it just a way of distracting yourself from the countdown? Malcolm, good morning, Malcolm, from Carvalho this morning. I'm reading A Wind from the North. Sorry to giggle. The Life of Henry the Navigator, as recommended by Peter, the historian, your guest last week. What wine tonight? I hope you were here for that bit. It was the Viña de Valentina, the Setúbal Red tonight. Okay, so you can still get that from Continent, which I've yet to do. I was in Continent yesterday looking for it. It's weird when I say I was in Continent yesterday, if you see what I mean. But I've got to go to another another continent today. Whoops. And see if I can find it. Everything, they had all of their range. They have quite a wide range of wines, does that producer, but not the one I was looking for, not the Reserva, the one that Gary wants us to try tonight. So that is the wine tonight. I am going to stop for a moment and just have a quick sip of my tea. Oh, Lord, right. That's much, much better. A Wind from the North, then, The Life of Henry the Navigator. Good local research, then, cultural, specific Portuguese research. Yeah, that's fantastic. Well done, Malcolm. And yeah, are you enjoying it? Bon dia, Carl from Nuno. Oh, the man we mentioned before. What's it like? What's the weather like? Indeed, hard to look outside and see the beautiful grey sky. I'm so sorry, Nuno. Oh, okay. Ensolarada is sunny. You learn something every day here. I prefer books, but never have time to read. Now, there's the thing. Perhaps it's not that people don't like reading. It's that they don't have the time to. Fascinating. And here we go. Valerie, you want to do it, don't you? Are you doing well? And actually, is that right? Is that right? How that's been put on the screen there? Can you say yes? It is otorino laryngealista. But do you know what it is? And that reminds me. Let me go then to this comment from Gordianus I think he's in Japan. He'll hear this and he'll let us know. But maybe he might not want to let on where he is as the international man of mystery. So yesterday's video, all of them go up on YouTube. There we are. And he commented, hello, road cycling competition. So that's what I was asking about and talking about, because I bought a bicycle, as many other people are doing. And there's a boom in bicycle building, bicycle manufacture, and export in Portugal at the moment. One of the silver linings of the pandemic. Tour de France was August the 29th to September the 20th. And the important one, the Volta a Portugal, to learn more about cycling in Portugal and the racing, was September 27th to just finished October the 5th. And ongoing is a Giro d'Italia. So the Italian race continues, and it started on October the 3rd and continues to October the 25th. And he says if they closed your town for a race, it was probably a special counterclock stage of Volta a Portugal. You can follow Volta a Portugal and other international competitions for free live on RTP2 via antenna, cable, or internet. This guy knows what he's talking about. Word of the day, and I dare you to, here we go, to pronounce it correctly in the next video. I did my best, Gordianus. Otorino laryngolista. Lol. So laughing at my expense there, I suspect. And hope everything is well in the Good Morning Portugal community. And thanks for the video. My pleasure, Gordianus. P.S. Either unlist the video or pack your bags. It takes courage to admit you bought a Spanish bike. Lol again. And Steve Merwin chipped in as well. Hola, bon dia, Carl. Great show again today. I saw the Portugal bicycle story here in the US, so that's good. Our good news from Portugal is being reported about in the United States. Great news. Let's hope the bicycle movement sticks post-pandemic and people drive less and pedal more. Here's to that. Appreciate the quiz, but I better hit the books a bit more. So Steve must have got under 5 yesterday with the quiz, which I hope you agree was a lot of fun. So thank you, Gordianos. Thank you, Steve. Always great to get comments. And yes, he's telling me to unlist the video or pack my bags because it takes courage to admit that I bought a Spanish bike. I don't know what to do about that now, folks. I did pick it up from the railway station just yesterday and put it in the back. So it's hidden in the back of the vehicle at the moment. So French car, Spanish bike. What will become of me? Okay, so onward then. Let's do this guide to port, shall we? After we've seen some more of your comments. Did I do okay, Valerie, with pronouncing word of the day? Let me put that up correctly on the screen. So officially, Palavra do dia today. Otorino laryngolista. Okay, how are you getting on with that at home? Sunny, if I Google Translate correct. Okay, yes, so that's right. The other word of the day is ensolarada. Ensolarada, sunny. That's a great word to know. And yes, Diogo is agreeing, confirming that ensolarado is sunny day, mate. He's really getting the Cockney lingo. Are you in London there, Diogo? You picked that up nicely. And yes, absolutely right, Valerie. Otorino laryngolista is all about ear, nose, throat, larynx, neck, mouth, etc., etc. Thank goodness for Google. Okay, so you did Google that one. And yeah, I suppose we would just simply call that in UK an ENT or ear, nose and throat specialist, right? Penny Alba Teller. I saw what you said there, Valerie. I'll come back to that in just a moment. Currently reading Life and Other Happy Endings, not those happy endings fanar. Ooh, naughty Penny at this time of the morning. Oh my goodness, lots of lovely comments. Sorry, I can't keep up with you guys this morning. Hola, bon dia from Adrian. Are Chinese shops common in Portugal? You bet, Adrian. It's an incredible phenomenon. It really is. It's one of those things that you don't necessarily read about in the tourist guides, but then you get here and you think, hold on a minute, that's an interesting looking warehouse, and everything in here costs about €1, and there are 10 million things in here. And then you go to a little village, somewhere out of town, and there's another little warehouse like that, or a corner shop, inside a precinct. And the Chinese shops are everywhere. They are everywhere. So if you need a phone charging cable, if you need a special kind of battery, if you need if you're out with the kids and they need an emergency pair of shoes. I don't know if you parents have ever had that happen. When the kids ruin their clothes somewhere or fall into a fountain in Portugal and you have to go and buy a pair of shoes, cheap pair of shoes from a Chinese shop. So it is an incredible phenomenon over here in Portugal. I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing any of your comments here. Mark. Mark and Anna Inns, good bon dia, Carl Munson. Bon dia to you, Mark and Anna. Love books, they continue to say. I don't know if that is Mark or Anna. I think it might be Mark. Love books, all sorts of books. But what are you reading at the moment? Gilda said she loves books. Gary, send me the name of the wine. Gary, yeah, can you do that so that Gilda can join us tonight? It'll be great to have a Portuguese wine expert among us this evening in the shape of Gilda. So yeah, do join us tonight, Gilda. That should be a lot of fun. Need to rethink, as it's 6 until we board the ferry, but 8 until we're back on Portugal soil. Oh, I see. So it's 6 days until you get on the ferry and 8 days till you'll be actually here in Portugal. I think it begins when you get on the ferry, frankly, or when it begins is that moment, isn't it, where you hear the and you're chuffing away out of the port of wherever, Plymouth or Portsmouth, wherever you're leaving from. That's the moment, I think, that the ferry becomes proxy Portuguese soil, and you go and have a drink to celebrate. So I'm going with 6, but it's your journey, your adventure, Paul. You tell us. Dog is love is a sort of scientific quest as to why dogs like their humans. It's beautifully portrayed in the film Alpha. Have you seen that, Ty? The movie Alpha is well worth a watch. I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to give too much away and be a spoiler on that. But seriously, check out Alpha, which I think is available on Netflix. I'm a Kindle lover. Is that like a Kindle lover or a Kindle lover? I've always got about half a dozen books on it. Still love a coffee table book, though. Yeah, I think Gary was saying that earlier on, wasn't he? The smell of books is important, especially if they're soaked in port, which we'll get round to in just a moment. Where's Spot? What a book! Oh yeah, who's that? Who wrote that? But yes, it's great, isn't it? I still enjoy that myself, Gary. I see what you did there. Sorry to hear you're incontinent, Valerie. And I think we shared Penny's most recent book. Oh, here we go. Diogo's got a wine recommendation for us. If you can, get one from Cartaggio or Douro, all red, missing the good wine, says Diogo. So thank you for that recommendation. And yes, Otorino Laranjolista. If you haven't said that yet today, please do. And it would appear I need one of those. I don't care why the whole deal. She's not over it. She's not over it, everybody. I don't care why the bicycles were here. They are a pain and they get in the way and they take up the entire road at 10 kilometers an hour and they wind me up. Time they made more bicycle tracks. Absolutely, Valerie. We're scared of you as well. So we do want our own cycle tracks rather than evoke your wrath in that way. Bon dia, Johnny. A book trying to read, which would be Simone Força de Viva. So she is top Portuguese student, everyone. If we have a prize giving on Good Morning Portugal, Johnny's the one who's going to get the most, probably the most improved student, but certainly the most enthusiastic. You reading Portuguese as well as doing your lessons, Johnny. Incredible effort. In Norfolk, 3 hours. Oh, okay. So Diogo's over in Norfolk there, 3 hours north of Norfolk or 3 hours north of London. I guess I'm not sure quite there, but we get the gist that you're in Bernard Matthews country there, Diogo. And also, when we were talking to Jeff Leyland the other morning, talking about the cannabis growing for medicinal purposes, that seemed to be what was going on over in Norfolk there. So you could be a cannabis farmer, you could be a turkey plucker. Who knows? You might want to say more, you might not. Dave and Debbie had a very special birthday with. I see. This is from your profile pic. Tavira quads, amazing up in the hills and along dry riverbeds. Sounds like a lot of fun. Totally different view of Tavira and surrounding area. Definitely recommended. Okay, so that profile pic detailing the very special birthday they had with Tavira quads. What a fantastic experience that is. Today I go to the Chinese shop on my bike with a sore throat to buy a book. Very good, Ferry. Tying together. And I honestly didn't ask him to say that. Tying together all the threads of today's show. Missed out on the ports, but we can still weave that in, Ferry. But excellent work there, sir. Bon dia from Neil. Another beautiful day in Portugal. Let's not say that too loud to Diogo, Vitor, and Nuno. Here we are in their country, whilst they're freezing in England. Otorhinolaryngologista, say ha. Keep simple, mate. I'll do my best, Diogo. I really love your input. Just read in black and white that's the name of the book, not the experience that Adrian's just had, by Alexandra Wilson, the biographical story of a young black barrister from a working class background in London and the discrimination she's faced so far and how broken the UK justice system is. Heavy but interesting. I'm sure it is. And not with the turkeys. I'm with the chickens, mate. Ha ha ha. Yeah. So he's that sounds like something from The Sopranos or a gangster movie. Hey, he's with the chickens now. But thanks for telling us, Diogo, that. Foul play is your business by the sound of it. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Let's have a look at port now. This is allegedly a 10-minute guide. Let us see. Gary has put the link into tonight's one in the comments, everybody, Gilda especially. Let us stay with the booze and talk about wine in this 10-minute guide to port from, what is this? primermagazine.com. I think it's almost like one of those, Bluffer's Guide sort of magazines by the look of it, because you can get a secret manual to affordable style, self-development, how-tos, and apartment DIY for the self-made man. That sounds like essential reading for the Expat Man Cave, which we'll do again tomorrow night at 10. But anyway, port. You know what's more impressive than serving a woman wine during dinner? Okay, so Prime is it would appear is a publication, web-based publication for a certain kind of chap, bounders and cads possibly. But let me read this I think in the voice that it's meant to be read in. You know what's more impressive than serving a woman wine during dinner? Serving her a glass of port afterward. And it tastes pretty damn good too. We'll teach you everything you need to get started. Okay, listen up, especially you bachelors, you men in the dating scene. This is everything you need to know. You don't have to be snobby to enjoy wine. That's the theme of our introduction to wine series. But if you're going to be snobby about one type of wine, make it port. Why? And this is all according to primermagazine.com. Because if your goal is to fake it till you make it as a wine aficionado, learning the basics about port will get you the most mileage and the most bang for buck. Serving a glass of port before or after dinner is a surefire way to impress a date or a guest. Chances are they've never had port, let alone port that's been, I would question that, and I'm sure some of you will too, let alone port that's been selected, stored and served properly. There's the thing. Knowing how to serve it properly, right? If you want to impress. In spite of its centuries of prestige, port wine has only recently come back in vogue in the States. Port, named for the eponymous Portuguese city of Porto, was first made popular in the 17th century by the British, who started drinking it because, well, it's a long story, but in a nutshell, they were mad at the French. Nothing's changed there then. Port fell off the map for recent generations of drinkers due in part to its daunting complexity. It's this very same complexity that makes port extremely rewarding. At which point, I want to tell you that, the Portuguese wine sales are down 40%. That's the reason it prompted me to do this with you this morning. The national market, according to Portugal News, has been the most affected in terms of sales of port wine, having fallen 40%, 40.26% between January and August. The data are from the Douro and Porto Wine Institute, the IVDP, and reveal the effects of the lack of tourists in the country. Since 2017, with the boom in the tourism sector, Portugal had become the main market for port wine in terms of value. That's people coming here to drink it, I guess. But this year, France once again took top spot on the podium. Boo, we're mad at France again. But back to the article here. And what is port wine? Before that, it says you can spend a lifetime exploring the nuance and history of the types of port wine, but all it takes to get started is 10 minutes of reading and start here. So what is port wine? Port is a fortified wine produced exclusively in the Douro Valley in Portugal. Port is heavily regulated by the Instituto dos Vinhos do Douro e do Porto. Unlike champagne, which has imposters all over the globe, port must be produced, labelled and marketed according to a myriad of strict rules. Quite right too. For someone learning the ropes, this is actually a good thing. The rules governing port lend it a clear-cut terminology that's a far cry from the ambiguous fluff and puffery that other bottles of wine may try to confuse you with. For example, the way to tell you're holding an authentic bottle of port is dead simple. Look for the Selo de Garantia, a white seal that reads Vinho de Porto Garantia on it. And that's, I guess, if you're trying to impress your date, you'll say, see here the white seal that tells us it's a Vinho de Porto Garantia. That's the first thing you chuck in your dinner jacket or whatever you're dressed up. Smoking jacket, probably on a date of this kind. But let me just slip into something cooler and more comfortable to serve the port. Port is produced by adding aguardente, sometimes referred to simply as brandy, to usually red wine. I'm liking this, actually. I'm enjoying this. This does a few things. Obviously, it ups the alcohol content, 20% ABV on average, but it also preserves more of the natural sugars from the grapes by stopping the fermentation process. Lastly, the fortification in port brings warmth to your body. And I think anyone who's tried it will remember that. On that note, port is often used as a communion wine for its sweetness. When I was a kid, says this writer, I thought that warm, fuzzy feeling was Jesus's love. True story. A lot of people still believe that. So the region, the additional sweetness and higher alcohol content, 20%, as I said, ABV on average, as opposed to 14% ABV or less for table wines, are part of what makes port special. The last part of the equation is aging. Okay, so you got barrel aged versus bottle aged port. I won't read it all out to you. You can go to this yourself, but this is the bit I do want to share with you. This is where to begin if you're buying your own first bottle of port, or if you want to buy one for somebody else, or if you want to do this whole thing that the article's about, which is impress somebody on a date. Start, and I want to know what happens if you go through with this and you do whip out a bottle of ruby port towards the end of the evening. I do seriously want to know how this goes. Start with a ruby port, they say. Ruby port is on the opposite side of the spectrum from vintage port in almost every way, which for the novice port appreciator has more pluses than minuses. Vintage port, while the undisputed king of ports, is less enjoyable for everyday imbibing because it has to be treated like fine china. It's fragile, expensive, and only for special occasions. In fact, it's so delicate that it has to be consumed within 24 to 48 hours of opening the bottle, which comes not as bad news to some of the people I know here this morning. A worthy ruby port, on the other hand, costs around $15. So this is an American article, pricing in dollars here, and stays good for $15 for a month or longer after uncorking it. And I wonder how many people have the discipline to keep a bottle of ruby port open for longer than a month. Not me. Ruby port is typically a blend of young ports that have been barrel aged for about 3 to 5 years. Ruby port is often filtered or fined, meaning it's ready to drink as soon as it's bottled. No decanting required. This makes ruby port perfect for popping open and serving in small glasses along with fruit, cheese, and other desserts. Most ruby port is fruit forward, in inverted commas, making it tasty and accessible, albeit starkly less complex than more expensive ports. Ruby port can even be served slightly chilled on the rocks or in cocktails. Try a white port tonic. And that does sound like fun. Now, where did that come up? And I was hoping to report on this to you. I think it was from the Man Cave. There was some idea of what would be the best drink to serve in the Man Cave, maybe. But there are some recommendations in this article. Links will be in the usual place. I will fast forward to the conclusion, but it's good. 10-minute guide, can't go wrong. Perfect if you are wanting to introduce port into a dating situation in your smoking jacket. That's barely scratching the surface of port, it says in the conclusion, but it's certainly enough to get you started. Enjoy port like you enjoy any other glass of wine, noting its color, aroma, and the balance of its tannins, acidity, and flavors. Try different styles, different producers, and take notes. And after you've developed your own taste for port comes the best part, introducing friends, dates, family, business associates, and others to the lost arts of the aperitif and the digestif. Nice little article, that. And it speaks of this kind of dating thing that I think, from my age of growing up, it was more referred by older folks to as courting rather than dating. Dating is a very particular sort of thing, isn't it, in America? And it's not something I have a lot of experience of, that kind of serial dating thing. It's a bit alien to me. I don't really understand how that works. A bit more old-fashioned, I think. But I can see how getting your port out, so to speak, might be a good thing. But please don't get your notebook out. If you are trying to impress a date, I think it is possibly going too far to get out a notebook and with all your old port tastings, because that would give away the game a bit, wouldn't it? That you have so many dates and so many tastings, and here you are with it's a bit like inviting somebody to see your etching. So stop short of that, folks, if that's what you're doing. Okay, back to a few of your wonderful comments here. Thanks, Gary, for putting in the link to tonight's wine. Packing them, not with them. Okay, so he's not with the chickens, he's packing the chickens. I said, good on you, Diogo. Keep up the good work, mate. And hopefully you won't be getting any of that chlorinated chicken nonsense there in Norfolk, if the UK can figure out some good trade deals around the world, or even, stick with domestically produced chicken and uphold good standards. Bon dia from Anita Rita Vieira. Good morning to you, Anna. Great to see you here. Nice voice of Swiss Tony there, mate. I do my best, Paul. Thank you for noticing. Mate, it was the English in 1700 who became the ambassadors in England. I love your historical input, cultural input here, Diogo. I didn't know that, and I'm not entirely sure what you mean. But that's is it the port connection there from the 1700s? Because I know that the whole thing about port is a lot to do with the British fondness for it, isn't it? Johnny Valerie, calmo is the best advice. If I can choose to be held up by a few cyclists in Portugal or a 100-kilometer traffic jam here in Belgium, I know what to choose. It's all relative, Johnny, and a very good point you make there. Loving the Roger Moore voice. Can I borrow it tonight? Oh, you most certainly can, Gary. Oh, that was going a bit into Sean Connery there, wasn't it? And that wasn't even sure. Oh, you've confused me now. But yes, you can borrow my Roger Moore voice. In the Expat Man Cave, we have a selection of, it's called The Pie Who Love Me, I think. And it is slightly overweight versions of James Bond's. And it's been a hilarious thread in the Expat Man Cave. Expect blokey humor. Don't go there if you're easily offended. But I have to tell you that a slightly overweight Roger Moore looks exactly like Benny Hill, an uncanny resemblance to the old funster Benny Hill. Just one day you become Seawit and tasty. What does that mean, Diogo? I love it. I love it that you said that, but I don't know what it means. Please explain more. Unless she is also a port lover. There you go, Neil. Yes. That would be love at first sight, wouldn't it? Is if you take the risk of getting out your port tasting notes on a date and your date says, I can't believe this. We were made to be together. I've brought my port tasting notes as well. And you sit there for the rest of the evening, comparing your tawnies together. How lovely. The next Bond maybe, oh, Ty. Stop it. But yes, I'll take the job. And sorry, because if that gig does come in, I might not be able to do the Good Morning Portugal live stream, folks. Just giving you a bit of a heads up there. So we will see Good Morning Portugal live stream here. I miss Money Penny. I will tell everybody I can't do the live stream anymore. I hope you enjoyed that Bond impersonation there. I do my best. A range of impersonations. I haven't done my Donald Trump this morning, but we've been gangster, we've been Bond. And yes, should I tell you more about this, just to resolve this thing about reading? Let me bring this on the screen for you. This is the article about the Portuguese youth and their reading habits. Portuguese youth reading less. I imagine this is a trend all over the world, right? Students in primary and high schools are reading less and less, according to a study by the National Reading Plan and the ISCTE, which points to the influence of the family on reading habits. Yeah, that's right. Kids need to see their parents reading it, I suppose, don't they, to pick up the habit themselves and just sort of normalize it in family life. In 2019, the majority of the 7,469 surveyed students admitted to having read less than 3 books for pleasure in the 12 months preceding the survey. And between the students, 21.8% of young people said they had not read any books during the same period, more than in 2007, when only 11.9% gave the same answer. What do we make of that? What do we make of that? I daren't even say it, but do you think books as we know them will become like a historical thing? This is perhaps something we can leave hanging there and talk some more about another time. Morning, says Dominique Core. Good morning to you, Dominique. Great to have your company. Diogo, the Porto wine. Okay, have one every day. You become sweet and tasty like me. Good advice from Diogo. And if any sensible port producers are out there, they should get in touch with Diogo. Bring him back from his job in Norfolk, if he's willing, and get him in your marketing team, because that is a classic, sir. Have a port every day and become sweet and tasty like me. And then we can have a picture of you on the bottle, Diogo. I love that. But yeah, this thing about books, what is it? Nearly a fifth or a quarter of kids not reading a book at all. Is that a sign of things to come? And maybe they are consuming their information and having their education in a different way. And us old giffers may need to get used to the idea that books won't always be around in the form that we grew up with and love. Maybe it is going electronic. I mean, I'm sure the statistics on how well and able children are to write will also be a bit shocking to us older folks, given that, they use keyboards now. They don't write as much as we used to. So things are changing, folks. And, our fear is always they're not changing for the better. But, maybe things are just becoming different. Who knows? A theme to carry forward, really, from our particular expats in Portugal perspective here, as we look at the I was going to get all wistful there. You know, the autumn of I'm not going to even go there because I don't want to leave you on that sort of note. Instead, I'm going to wish you a very good day. I do want you to practice saying Otorino Laranjolista. If you would weave that into a conversation today, join us tonight on the Portugal Calling webinar with expatsportugal.com. And we're talking about what's hot in Lisbon property-wise, okay? So join us for that if you have an interest in property, or if you know anybody who has an interest in property in Lisbon, send them our way for Portugal Calling tonight from 8 o'clock. You will need to book to be on that webinar, and the premium members over there on Expats Portugal get priority access. So that should be fun. I'm looking forward to doing that one tonight, and thereafter tasting Gary's Stubal Red tonight from 9 o'clock on Good Morning Portugal Wine Club. You've all been awesome. And let's take that last word to Diogo, because he's amazing, an amazing contribution to the show. Yes, love to get back to Portugal, says Diogo. Life starts when you're in Portugal. How wonderful. And Dominic, I think, giving me a right back at you for having a lovely day today. Go well, folks. Farewell. See you tonight or tomorrow morning again. So até já, beijinhos, abraços, tchau, 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 tchau.